Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to host today my special guest, Mr. Aaron Charpentier, who is a prominent US novelist. And Mr. Charpentier used to visit Odessa and used to live in Odessa back in 2015. And basically, that's why I decided to invite Mr. Charpentier to speak again on this TV show, because he has his own experience being in Ukraine, being in Odessa, and he's very sensitive about what is going on now in Odessa, in one of all the cities in Europe. Actually, Odessa was not founded in 1794. It was founded way back to the history, so we can trace history to Odessa to the 15th century. And Russia is now destroying Odessa because of different political reasons, trying to destroy seaport facilities of Odessa. So that's why I decided to talk to Mr. Charpentier. Thank you very much, Mr. Charpentier, for joining today's remote show, and I hope that we will have a beneficial discussion.
Thank you for having me again. And I'd like to add that I originally scheduled the interview for at the Notre Dame Church in Quebec, but I wasn't able to. I was going to do it outside in the seminary courtyard, but it's raining out, so I'm shooting this interview. I'm being interviewed in a cafe, so. Customers are coming in and out. So, I just, want to prepare you for that because,
Mr. Charpentier, thank you very much. Anyway, that you found a way out from, let's say, that situation. Mr. Charpentier, so why actually Western countries, they, on my side, they do not devote enough time to this situation. They don't try to find another way to punish Russia for this severe act of misconduct and violation of international law.
I can't say exactly. I think that maybe they're trying to find a response, but I think the response should be severe sanctions. Really heavy sanctions, because a war is a war, and but military targets are one thing, but Russia targeted those were terrorist attacks. When you target people, when you target sensitive targets like food sources, that's a terrorist attack. When they're attacking military facilities or equipment or what have you, then it's different. Russia and Ukraine are at war, but every time that Ukraine attacks an area that's sensitive toward Russia always attacks, retaliates in a extreme way, and the West needs to respond when Russia does that. I'm very disappointed with my government, with Western Europe, because they really need to step up to the plate.
Mr. Charpentier, this situation actually came down after Vilnius summit of North Atlantic Treaty Organization took place 2 weeks ago, where unfortunately Ukraine has not received an explicit answer whether NATO would like to see Ukraine inside or not, because what we here in Ukraine actually hear just general talks without any specific dates when Ukraine and conditions when actually Ukraine can become the member of NATO. And I think personally that obviously partially Putin is destroying infrastructure because he wants to destroy the grain deal. But I think that the fact that NATO actually refused Ukraine to join NATO right now, it also affected the decision of Russia to hit the ball.
Well, I think it's wars are very unpredictable, and also if Ukraine joined NATO at this time, then America and the other our other allies have to go to war, right, with Russia. And I think that in some ways that could even make it worse for Ukraine, because Putin could become more aggressive towards Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So I think right now isn't a good time for not just the West, but I think also for Ukraine.
Yeah, but
and he could use.
Yeah, but now in Ukraine we have 90% of Ukrainian people who stands in favor of integration to NATO. And if we look back to the history, when in 2008 in Bucharest, NATO refused Ukraine on the ground that there is no support of Ukrainian citizens towards NATO integration, that eventually this led to the Russian-Georgian War and to the seizure of Crimea when Russia annexed it. And actually, it led eventually to this full-scale war. So I personally think, and this is not only my opinion, this is generally Ukrainian opinion, that now we really see the lack of leadership in the West. So we don't see Ronald Reagan, we don't see Margaret Thatcher and Helmut Kohl on the surface.
Well, again, I think that it's I can understand how Ukraine and Ukrainian people feel because their country's being attacked but at the same time, no country's ever joined NATO during a war, and I don't think that the West wants to go to war directly with Russia. So, and it could make the situation in Ukraine even worse.
Yeah, but Mr. Charpentier, we have different examples.
I mean, look what he's done in Odessa.
We have different examples even now. Look, we have a debate between Turkey and Greece regarding Cyprus, the state of Cyprus, and still these both states are inside NATO. We had Germany, which actually was split to Eastern Germany and Western Germany. And Eastern Germany, according to the constitution of the Western Germany, was a let's say, conventional part of it, but it was, let's say, occupied by Soviet Union, but still Germany was inside NATO. So I think that this is the matter of decision, because when we see now how Finland and Sweden swiftly got to the NATO, obviously we ask ourselves question, why we have special conditions for Sweden and Finland, and we have different conditions for Ukraine. I'm sorry to tell you, but this reminds me George Orwell's farmland, animal farmland, where he stated that all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
I don't think it's a question of equality. I just think that Biden and his administration, they don't want to go to war with Russia, and Biden's been really adamant about Ukraine joining NATO. But once there's some kind of settlement between, once a settlement between Russia and Ukraine is reached.
Mr. Charpentier, we have already 1.5 years of the Great War since the Second World War. So basically, 10 million Ukrainians left the country. And let's speak straight. Some European states, they are very pleased that now Ukrainians reside there. Why? Because there was a really lack of working force, lack of workers, employees, who now benefit European economy. But for Ukraine, it's a sad story, because breaking families, breaking traditions, and obviously Ukraine is losing the most talented people. So do you foresee any repercussions for the West for such passive policy, that West is putting a blind eye on what Russia is doing, and do not, let's say, trying to change its behavior towards Russia and consciously accept that Ukrainian-Russian war is not only Ukrainian war, but this is a war between West and Russia?
Well, I do agree. This isn't a war just between Ukraine and Russia. The West is fighting a proxy war with Russia, and this war partly started because of a lot of Western countries were, letting a lot of Eastern European countries join NATO. Let's face it. A lot of politicians wouldn't say that. Western politicians wouldn't admit that, but I'm not a politician, right? But so I think that we do need to, I wouldn't say bear some sense of responsibility, but I think that, I do think we do bear some responsibility toward Ukraine, because I do feel that Putin, does fear NATO, but his invasion backfired on him, right? Because NATO has only become stronger, right? And we've added, and we'll keep adding more countries.
Mr. Charpentier, the last but not the least question which I would like to ask you. This is basically about the prediction. I understand that to make a prediction in such a situation is a very bad idea, because the situation is really swiftly changing, but still, do you foresee any exit from this tunnel of war where we are up now? Because even when there was a pandemic, at the end of the day, we knew that there is a way out from pandemic. But is there a way out from this war?
Well, wars are extremely, extremely, extremely unpredictable. And I think that the only predictable outcome could be negotiation. And, I don't think that Ukraine is ready to negotiate. And, it's not for me to say that Ukraine should or shouldn't negotiate. I think it's the people and the Ukrainian government's right to do that. And I think, again, that, I think that the American administration has been, the Biden administration has been very clear about that also. because you can't, Ukraine can't be a strong democracy, right? If it's not demonstrating that from the inside, even during the war.
Yeah, I heard many times from Western diplomats this argument that Ukraine has to build the sustainable democracy, that Ukraine has to build sustainable institutions. Very nice fairy telling, but in practice we see that corruption exists even in Eastern European states, which joined NATO long time ago. So I think that personally that these are type of excuses which West try to use in order to show Ukraine a red card and not to enter in that disagreement with Russia. Thank you very much, Mr. Charpentier. Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope while you're in Quebec, we will have another opportunity to speak about the station, bearing in mind that now everything intensified and we have much to discuss. So we have very intensive, let's say, news agenda. Thank you very much, Mr. Charpentier, prominent US novelist who is now residing in Quebec, in Canada, joined us today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, audience, for having us.
Thank you for having me, sir.